All right, we're good. Thank you.
Great. So welcome everyone, whether you're joining us live on this call or you're able to see a recording of this. I want to introduce you today to a bit about the Master of Science in Television program at Boston University. I am Sheila Sitomer. I'm professor of the practice. If you're not familiar with that term, it means that I've paid my dues in the industry over decades. I've worked primarily in what's now considered unscripted, although there's a lot of script writing that goes on, but in magazine formats, morning television. I worked on Good Morning America for many, many years. I was the executive producer of Inside Edition and Extra magazine shows. I worked at ABC News for 25 years, working on every show there in some capacity, plus streaming, started in commercials. And we're also joined by a current MSTV student who's spending his final semester as part of the LA program, which we'll get into. Abe, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, hi, my name's Abe Oxley Hayes. I, like Sheila said, I'm in my second year of the program. I'm on the writing producing track. So my focus has mostly been on screenwriting, which is kind of what I'm going to be talking mostly about. And just for where I'm currently at, I'm currently interning at a talent agency named KMR and a production company named ATN Entertainment.
Right. Here are our names. And at the end of this, I'll give you my email address so that if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be very, very happy to answer your questions. So let's talk about the MSTV program. It's a very practical approach to getting you acquainted with the industry, honing your skills, and preparing you to launch your careers. We get into development, pitching, screenwriting, producing, management, production processes, and there are a wide variety of craft classes also available to you. We want you to understand how this business works, both from the TV/film, because those lines are blurred now, and also the interactive industries. To get you acquainted with the players, with the positions, and also where the industry seems to be headed. We want you to leave here with a solid portfolio that you can take with you to show prospective supervisors at internships and also at companies where you're looking for jobs. So we want you to leave here with scripts, particularly if you're in a screenwriting path, videos that you've worked on, pitch packages, and we also give you career advice on where the positions might be, what to aim for. We have a lot of guest speakers who join us who are actively working in the business. Abe, you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like the scripts and the portfolio building, that was a big reason why I chose to come out here, is the emphasis on that. I'm going to come out of here with 4 or 5 original scripts, 3 pitch packages, and so just a good variety of materials so that if I ever go to prospective agents or managers to try to get representation, I have enough work that I can kind of show them a few different aspects of that, which is something that's really helpful from a writing perspective on the program.
Great, thanks. The MSTV program is comprised of 3 semesters, the first 2 of which are in Boston, fall and spring, And the final semester, you have an option of whether you want to stay in Boston, or if you want to do what the majority of students do is, which is avail yourself of the BULA program. And that's where Abe is right now. The basic structure is that you are working at 1 to 2 internships during the day, and then you're taking classes in the evening with people who are in the industry. Abe, what do you think of the program so far?
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it. It's definitely, if you do the LA portion, they are very different, your experience in LA and in Boston. Right now I'm taking 2 classes, the other 2 being the thesis course, which is where you're just either writing a final script or you are developing a production book for a unpublished script, I believe. I'm not as familiar with that because I'm not doing it. And then the other thing is I'm doing the thesis courses or the internship courses. The time in Boston is really helpful, really strong faculty in the program, I'd say, is probably the strongest suit of it. You learn a lot, but also it's like a program where like you have to put in work if you want to get much out of it. So like it's one of those things where like you get more out of it the more you put into it, I think.
And to pick up on one thing that Abe mentioned in terms of the faculty, the faculty in the MSTV program have put in their time in the industry, and many of them are still working in the industry. I do that during the summers. I produced a program for This Old House on PBS and Roku that's actually up for an Emmy right now. So you are talking to people who have gone through, done their paces, earned their stripes, and they're teaching you what you need to know, but also telling you what the business is like. There are 2 paths. You need to choose one when you enter the program. First is producing writing, and the second is producing management. Now, it doesn't mean that if you choose one that never the twain shall meet. There are producing management students, for instance, who do take writing courses, and in fact end up, we have some this semester whose thesis are scripts. So there is crossover available there. Here are the required courses if you're going to select the producing writing track. Let me explain. I think the first few are pretty obvious. Creative Producing 1, nonfiction, covers talk shows, reality TV, and documentaries. In this course, you're first putting together a packet. When I teach the course, I model it after what producers and writers give the talent on Good Morning America to prepare them to do an interview. Reality TV and documentary are team projects where you're putting together a soup to nuts proposal package with a glossy 1-sheet, a full-blown treatment. In the case of reality TV, you're getting into the casting. You're writing the first part of an episode of a script, and you're doing a pitch deck, a highly polished pitch deck, and you're doing a presentation to the class. Similar in the documentary, you're also doing a comprehensive pitch package. And in this case, you're also getting into the call sheets and more deeply into research. Abe, you took that course. Anything you want to say about that?
I mean, it's gonna be it's also the only class you're probably gonna have in the first semester where the whole cohort is together. So it's a really important class just to kind of like get everyone in the same room. You'll have that again in creative producing 2 in the following semester. So those are just kind of gonna be the 10 pole classes where like everyone's in the same space together.
Can you speak a bit about what goes on in producing 2?
Yeah, absolutely. So creative producing 2 is going to be a lot of the same like ethos as creative producing 1, but for scripted materials. So you're going to be going over half hour and hour long formats, which is like obviously a little more dicey today with how fluid those things can be. But you're going to create concepts and pitch them in front of the class. There's really emphasis around pitching in that class, as that's going to be a big part of if you want to be creating TV out in LA. But there's also a focus on just like teaching you aspects of the profession in general. So you'll cover things like copyright law, the production timeline, so pre to post, and the in between of actual production. And yeah, I think that's about all I can think about that right now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Both the producing writing track and the producing management track, the last 2 requirements are the same. Every student is required to do a thesis project. Abe is in the throes of finishing his up.
Yes.
There are a number of options. You can either write a script in comedy or drama or dramedy, or you can put together a production book, which is similar to a series Bible, where you're, again, doing a full-blown treatment. How are you going to market this? How are you going to find the funding? What's your production aspect look like in terms of the crew that you need, the cast that you need? And you're given options. It can be in the drama sector, the comedy, reality, documentary. How's it going, Abe, with the thesis?
Well, thank you for the well wishes, Lori. It's going well. I think I would have preferred to have gotten it done in the summer than dealing with it now. A lot of students try to get it done this summer. If you do end up going here and writing a thesis, I would maybe shy away from sci-fi or fantasy, which is what I've done. It's a surprising amount of work.
Mm-hmm. And you're working one-on-one with a faculty member who is your
Yes.
advisor.
Yeah,
The process. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so you get to request a faculty advisor. You're not guaranteed it, obviously, because if everyone requests the same one, they can't honor that. But so I just found a writing professor, my favorite that I had, that made sense for the genre I was working in, and I get to work with him, and we get Zoom calls. I've probably had like 6 or 7 of them with him at this point. So like there are faculty that are very engaged in the quality of your work that you're putting out.
Yeah, we try to keep the number of thesis projects that each faculty member has down to a very manageable amount so that we can spend time with you honing your projects. The other requirement in your last semester is an internship, whether you are in LA or you decide to remain in Boston. And we have a terrific career services department who can assist you with identifying potential internships. There is also a very active internship guidance from the BULA office. Members of BULA come out to Boston to meet individually with each MSTV student in the spring to get an idea of the areas that are of interest to them. But I do want to stress that they are not going to hand you an internship. We really want you to experience what it's like to get your feet wet in this industry. So there are certainly companies that you'll hear about that have relationships with BULA and career services, but it's going to be on you to send out those letters, schedule those interviews, and land your internship. And the good news is that no one goes through BULA empty-handed. Everyone does land an internship. It's going to take some work though on your part.
Yeah, and just on that, like, there's definitely a bunch of people in the cohort who, like, I remember a couple months ago freaking out, being like, I'm going to be the one person who doesn't get an internship in the cohort, and they all have internships now.
Yeah, everyone gets them. So the other track, the producing management track, is something I'm a little more familiar with. And here are the required courses for that. Line producing gets you involved in budgeting, in scheduling, the logistics end of being a producer. TV management is a course that I teach. And this is a very up to the minute, what's going on in the industry, how does it all work, who are the major players, and what's on the horizon. Let me give you an example. Day 2, we did the Writers Guild and SAG after strikes. Both strikes were still ongoing at that point. And we walked through what's at stake here. What are the major issues for the two unions? We had a speaker join us via Zoom, a strike captain for WGA, who was on the front lines. And she was talking about what it's like to be out there and what the other writers are feeling. We did one on a class, my most recent class, a couple of days ago, was on show running. What does it mean to be a show runner? It's actually one of the executive producers, but it's the person at the top who doesn't get a credit as showrunner, gets a credit as executive producer. We heard from Vince Gilligan because he's given great interviews on what it's like to be a showrunner on Breaking Bad. And then we were joined in another Zoom call by a BU alum, a COM alum, who has been a showrunner. And he talked about what it's like day in and day out, what the challenges are, the skills that you need in order to be a showrunner. We talked through the 2 creative producing courses, Fundamentals of Interactive Media. Wonderful, very well-respected woman in the gaming industry. Margaret Wallace joined the faculty a couple of years ago, and she teaches a course on this new horizon of all this interactive media and getting you up to speed on that. Here are some of the many, many electives that are also available to you in addition to your required courses. Abe, do you want to talk about some that you've taken?
Yeah, so I actually took the first one. I think the first semester, as a writing student, you only get to take the one. So, and I took the line producing course from the management students typically take. It's a really good way to round out your skills in whatever way that, like, you kind of want to build your career. So I'm very interested in the producing half of the writing producing track, and so, like, taking extra courses in that regard. But also, like, my second semester, I saw a course on the industry of video games, and that's just something that, like, I have a really academic interest in, and there's the freedom to take that as well if, like, you decide to. I think you get to take 1 your first semester and then 2 your second semester, and then when you're out here in LA, you also get 1 course as an elective as well. Yeah.
And our department is part of a larger entity, College of Communication. We're joined by journalism. We're joined by mass comm, which is advertising and PR. If you want to cross over to those, I think that there's an opportunity for that. I wanted to talk a bit about one of the courses listed here, Real World Productions, which is a course that I teach. It's a very unique course in that teams of students are producing short videos for actual for-profit and nonprofit clients. It's a great experience. It's a hard, challenging course because you are a work for hire. You're working for a client, something you're going to do when you get out into the real world. This semester, we've got a combination of 2 nonprofits for whom we are doing videos to put on their websites and social media to attract more participants, donors, partners. And we've got our 3rd project, which is a fashion narrative. This is a designer who's looking for a video with no dialogue that tells a story of one woman going through an adventure. And as she goes through the adventure, her outfits change. So very unusual, very challenging. And the students really enjoy this class because it's a whole new experience for them. Here are some of the current BULA courses, one of which is required. And Abe, do you want to talk about your experience with BULA courses?
So I think actually you're required to take either the business in Hollywood or careers in Hollywood, because I'm not taking business in Hollywood right now. Essentially both those courses, business in Hollywood and careers in Hollywood, are just going to be a primer on the current state of the industry. I know careers in Hollywood is a speaker series, so we've gotten to speak to people like Starburn Studios, who made Rick and Morty, Animal Lisa, a couple other things in that space. We just had some speakers come in who were the ones who got the original Lord of the Rings films made in the early 2000s. So you get like some really exciting people to come out and talk to you. We also just had one of the screenwriters that wrote on The Simpsons and That's So Raven. He came out and just spoke to us for the Screenwriting in Hollywood also has a speaker series that you can sign up for. So that was also, we got the opportunity to do that. So there's just a lot of great opportunities to speak with people who are in the industry, who can give you kind of like guidance on what's going on, like ways to break in, things like that. Yeah, and then I don't know everything about all these courses because I'm not taking them, but it's all within walking distance of where you're living on campus. Out here, it's, I think, 7 minutes door to door, so it's not very hard at all, and the weather's always lovely out here, so it's a nice time of the day to get over to your classes.
Great, thanks. Wanted to give you a feeling for some of the very recent internships where the students have taken their internships as part of the BULA program. I put one of yours down, Abe.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that experience of interning out there?
Yeah, so it's I'm interning at 2 internships. The first one, you have to intern for 20 hours a week when you're out here taking classes is the requirement. My first internship was only 10 hours a week, so I got a second to fill out that thing. I'm working in talent agency and talent management, so I'm learning a lot about client representation. It's a really good way to just like, you're going to learn a lot about the industry in your classes, and that's so helpful. And then you're going to get out here, you're going to start working, and you're going to learn way more in a very like more practical day-to-day aspect of it. So like, they're going to teach you a lot, but like, they're not going to teach you the software that a talent agency uses to pitch its clients to casting directors, which is, that's makes total sense. It's a very granular thing, but like, so you're going to learn a lot of the nuts and bolts about how you work, and also the certain pathways that like, if you want to be a writer or a producer or management, like it's going to teach you the ways that like you can get on those career paths. A big thing is informational, so you just speak to people in the company and get to learn a lot about their position and how they got to where they are, so you can find someone who's doing a job that you're interested in and learn how they got there, which is just really valuable to get.
And what you're also doing at the same time is starting to make those contacts.
Yes.
Network. The structure of the MSTV program is such that many students go out to LA with the goal of staying in LA after the semester is over. So that puts you where you want to be.
And it's easy to sound like all work, but like this Saturday, like I'm going to like a networking Halloween mixer for like young assistants and young creatives. So like there is like all, it can be very fun, like the networking and like getting to meet people in the industry as well.
this is I'm starting my 4th year of teaching at BU. So I went back to the students that I've been with since I started a few years ago, and looked up to see where they are now. And this is just a partial list of where they are and what they're doing, and how far they have already progressed in their really still very young careers. So I'll give you just a moment to look through some of these. Jumping back to Boston, I wanted to tell you about some of the other activities going on that MSTV students get involved in. One of them is BU TV 10. It has been around for more than 3 decades. It is a student-run television network that offers a wide variety of programming, as you can see here. There are many opportunities to get involved as your schedule permits, whether it's producing, writing, running camera, sound, management. It's a great opportunity to get some hands-on experience. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Abe?
Yeah, so I worked on one BU TV production while I was in Boston. And I just think it's a really great way to either augment or fill out like your education. So like if there's something that you're not really getting in your coursework but you're interested in. So like let's say you don't really have like a physical production course that you're taking, but it's something you want to learn and you're interested in. Like it's a great way to informally sort of develop these skills. So like any of these productions will teach you like how to operate a camera, how to hang a light, anything like that. They will also, like if you like join a writer's room, like they will kind of walk you through their process. So it's a great way to sort of just like learn another skill that you're maybe not having the time for in your class schedule, or if there's something you're really interested in that you've like learned about academically and you want to explore like trying out in a more legitimate way. It's great for that. It's also just a good thing to have on your resume when applying for internships, to say that you've like had some practical experience, even if it's on a student level.
Great, thanks. Then I wanted to mention a couple of other very important events here. One is Cinematheque. 3 to 4 times each semester. These are very special evenings, typically on Fridays, where esteemed professionals in the industry will join us, if possible, live. If not, definitely on Zoom. We'll screen a piece of a portion of their work or the entire work. And then there will be a Q&A session that's kicked off with one of the faculty. Then it's opened up to the students to ask their questions. Let me tell you about some of the recent guests at this. This semester, we had James Friend, the Oscar-winning cinematographer for last year's All Quiet on the Western Front. We screened the entire film, and then he flew over from London just for this Cinematheque. It was fabulous. He was great. This semester, we also had Ben Stiller in person. He just joined us a couple of weeks ago. Packed audience. And he talked about his work as executive producer and director on Severance. Last semester, we had Fabian Wagner, who was the cinematographer on Game of Thrones. We screened an episode he did, this epic battle. And then
Battle of the Bastards, if you're familiar.
Pardon?
Battle of the Bastards, if you're familiar with the episode.
Yeah. And then he spoke about it. So these are wonderful opportunities to hear from the pros. We also have the Redstone Film Festival. And if you choose to do so, you can submit a film that you have worked on to this film festival. There's a judging panel of faculty, and there are awards given to prize winners. We also have a screenwriting competition, the Fleeta Rosenberg, that goes on at the same time. So your work can really get recognized. So questions. Before I start questions, one question that often comes up is, what do you look for when you're looking at the applications from students? The faculty are the ones who look at the applications in the area that they're most closely associated with. Let me give you a few tips. One is, obviously, your prior academic record is going to be very important, but also your activities are really important. Internships, part-time jobs, undergraduate on-campus activities. We want to know that you have some experience in this area, but not everyone who comes into this program was a film and television major as an undergraduate. There are some students who are accepted into this program who have completely different undergraduate degrees, economics, marketing, but they've decided, you know what, I think I really want to head towards film and television. And that's fine. What we're looking for in your application is that you are a go-getter, that you are engaged with whatever it is, that you are ambitious. Those are all really, really important attributes. Another very important attribute is your writing. We want to know that you are a sound writer, that it's clear what you're putting down on paper, that the grammar is good, that the spelling is good, that your application is making sense. Very, very important. There are a couple of essay questions in the application. There's also a video interview element of the application. And we want to see your personality. We want to see your honesty. We don't want to see you trying to second guess what you think we want to hear in response to the questions. We want to see how you honestly have reacted to certain situations, if that question leads to something about that. So those are really all very important considerations when you're doing your application. Abe, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I forgot there was a video part of the application even, so I'm not. It's been a minute since I applied, and it's not the most fresh in my mind.
Well, obviously you did well on the application.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I take any? Oh, did you want to say
I can
something?
say, like, I come from a theater background, so like, and one of my roommates comes from like I believe an art history background. So like, there are like, it's not just like, oh, like one or two students. Like, I would say a solid half the program doesn't come directly from a film and television background.
Right, right, and you're not expected to. So, questions? Anyone have any questions?
Sheila, I have a question. Could you expand a little bit on real world productions? Like, what can a student expect to be doing during a real world production project?
Sure. The students are in teams typically of 5. We have a producer, a director, an associate producer / writer, a cinematographer, and an editor. But everyone is expected to collaborate with each other on the project. you're given the client you're working with. So I line up the clients in advance. The application that the clients fill out give you quite a bit of information about the client, but it's really up to the team to come up with an approach to the video. The client may say, I'd like to attract more volunteers for my nonprofit. The team's challenge is, okay, how do we tell that story? How do we visualize it? The team comes up with a proposal, meets with the client, pitches that proposal. Sometimes the client says, sounds great. Sometimes the client will say, okay, here's my feedback. Could you, think about these? So you progress from the initial proposal to coming up with a rough script, because I find it very, very important that students understand in advance, by doing the rough script, it's their guidepost to, here are the questions I need to ask to get the answers, the client is looking for. And here are the visuals I need to get. Shooting takes place, which entails finding locations, clearing locations. In the case of this fashion video, casting, running all the casting choices by the client, props, coming up with the questions, working with the clients. Some clients are much more hands-on than others. We have one client this semester who says, I want to see all of the questions in advance, because they are giving constant feedback. They go out and shoot. They have to come up with call sheets, production schedules, budgets the client has to sign off on. And then when everything is shot, it all has to be logged. A final script has to be crafted. And they're in the editing room. Typically, the entire team squeezed into the editing room together, coming up with a cut, making tweaks, running it by the client. They also have to put together a production book of all of the releases they've gotten, including personal releases, location releases, music releases. In some cases, they've had music originally composed for their videos. They do a press kit. So they're taking photos on set of the crew, of the participants in the video, writing press releases. It is as we say, a student-run, client-driven course. In other words, the students have to keep the engine moving. The client has approval on everything, absolutely everything. So the first thing that the students have to do is build the trust with the client that they're going to deliver, that they're going to stay in touch with the client. It's going to be on time and on budget, and that the students are fulfilling the goals and the needs of the client in the video. And it's a big pivot for a lot of students, because up until then, many of them have produced videos of their own creation, and they're the guiding force. Well, now you have to please the client, and you may not agree with all of the choices that the client is making, but that's what goes into working for a client.
Thanks, Sheila.
Sure.
I have a
Any-
question.
Go ahead. Sure.
So as you just talked about, are there a lot of classes that kind of focus on producing these projects, like bringing them to life with like the casting and shooting? and all of that?
Well, there's there's a production one course, which many students take, and that gives you the opportunity to produce a variety. I actually took production one this past summer myself. I was a student. We produced 4 or 5 different projects, from scripted to more of a nonfiction feature on one person. So you have that opportunity. There's another course called Producing the Social Purpose Short. And it is a unique course split into 2 semesters, where the first semester is devoted to writing socially important pieces, films. And the second semester in the spring is to produce and direct those shorts. So those are some of the courses. In addition, BUTV 10 is a great opportunity to get producing experience.
I'll also just say there's a bunch of student film opportunities as well that are always looking for people to work on them. The upper level production courses that the seniors and juniors in the program do also just has some more high budget for student projects than you might find on like a BU10 thing all the time. So that's just also another opportunity as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point. Because production 2, the second level, production 3, the third level, are always in demand. There's an all call out right now for one that's going on for the next 2 weekends. It's a massive prom scene. So they're looking for extras for the prom. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay.
And Abraham, actually, I have a really quick question.
Yeah.
For both of you. What is the most exciting thing to you guys about the TV industry, either right now or like where you think it's headed in the next couple of years? Because I know you're preparing students for now and you're preparing students for the future. So like, what are the things that you guys are, I don't know, most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I find the most, that's such an, I mean, so much of my thought process has just been dominated by the strike recently. So I think like the thing I'm most excited for is just getting back to regular old production as normal. I'm excited for what these terms and agreements are going to mean for the industry. I think it's going to be moving in the right direction. I think that we're moving towards a more friendly space to make a living in this industry, which I think as someone going into it is very reassuring. As someone who's trying to be a writer, the terms the WGA just won are very comforting compared to what we had even just a year ago. Great.
Sheila, how
Okay.
about you? As
Oh, I'm sorry.
As a professor, how about you? And I loved your comm talk a couple weeks ago. That you
Oh,
were
thanks.
on the industry. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you. Well, let me, if I could kind of rework the question. What I want to impart to students, and I think I speak for the faculty in general, is not only, okay, this is what the industry is about. You know, this is how syndication works. This is how marketing works. This is how development deals work. All those nuts and bolts things. But also a sense of what it is you need to succeed in this industry and survive in this industry. It's not an easy business. If you look at, for instance, you know, what happened when Discovery took over Warner Media, there have been massive changes that have affected so many people. And so what I also try to instill in the students is you will go through bumps in the road. We all do. And we all just get back up on our feet and we move forward. And there may be projects that you get frustrated that you can't get off the ground, but you keep going. I mean, if you look at some of the things that, like The Walking Dead was turned down by a number of networks. And it just so happened that they fell into the right place at the right time to get it put on the air on AMC. It's exactly what AMC was looking for. So things like that happen. And you learn who your best support systems are. They are the people who you're sitting next to in class, because those are the people who will be giving you the opportunities, will be recommending you. I cannot tell you how many friends you will find just by working with other people and how supportive they will be. So it's, it's a tough industry, but it's a wild, wonderful ride that I've just enjoyed for decades.
Great, thank you.
So if you do have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them or refer you to the right people. And my email address is at the bottom of this slide, sitomer@bu.edu. I want to thank you all very, very much for joining and watching. And I hope that you will consider our program because we're extremely proud of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.